not enough has been made out of the fact that, just think about this for a moment. Someone tried to kill you just days before. And in that attempt, they severely wounded and killed other people. This would traumatize you very deeply, but what do? You get up and you go to work? Is that what you do? You praise the people, in this case, the Secret Service, who failed to protect you as they ought to have.
See the screen up there of me? That's very severe, that comb over. That's a severe sucker. What's with that one?
You show a sense of humor, and you show a posture of reconciliation, of peace towards those people who created the atmosphere for this attempt on your life to take place to begin with. That's what Trump did. Welcome to another episode of Ideas Have Consequences with me, Larry Alex Taunton. And today we are discussing the Republican National Convention and all that took place there this past week. Now, one of the first things that I want to focus on is Trump's speech. There's been a lot of discussion of Trump's speech. There has been even a fair amount of criticism of Trump's speech, but I want to try to give you a little bit of background to what I think is going on with Donald Trump. Now, I want to be clear. I've received no text messages from Donald Trump. I've had no conversations with Donald Trump, but I have suffered trauma. And I know a little bit about the way that affects you. And I am not hearing enough discussion about what I think is a very important piece to that puzzle. And that is that Donald Trump himself, he has said that he has been changed. And I believe that he's been changed. I thought that was very visible throughout the RNC. He was quite subdued. And not subdued as in disengaged, but he was just more quiet. He appeared more reflective. He appeared to be taking in his surroundings, maybe just a little bit more contemplative. This was the way he came off during the RNC. But before I get to that, I want to say a few things about some of the others who spoke and who I thought really shined. And I'm not going to go through the entire week. I did think that platforming an unrepentant pro-abortion porn star on Monday night was odd, and it signaled some things about where the RNC, the Republican National Convention, is going that I don't think the Republican Party is going, that I don't think are good things. But we're going to save that for a later episode. We'll discuss that at a more appropriate time. But on the night of Trump's speech, I thought it was a home run, frankly. I thought everyone who spoke did a terrific job, and I thought that they reflected very well, particularly the family, reflected very well on Donald Trump. He looked like a man who enjoys being a grandfather. He looks like a man who is loved by his children very much and loved by his grandchildren. He looks like a man who is loved by his family. That came through. I thought that having Kai Trump, I think Don Trump Jr.'s daughter, Donald Trump's granddaughter, was fantastic. I'm not sure how old she is. She's a beautiful young lady who appears to be, I don't know, maybe 15 or 16. I thought she was fantastic. And in part because following the normal course of life, I mean, maybe she speaks at a convention 20 or 30 years from now, and she'll be a very, very different person. Maybe a more jaded person, maybe a more cynical person. Life has a way of doing that to you. Maybe somebody who has a very strong political agenda. What was so wonderful, I thought, about her talk and about platforming her was that there was none of that. She didn't come off as jaded. She didn't come off as cynical. She didn't come off as having any agenda other than to tell you a little bit about the grandfather that she loves very much. And I thought she did a great job. She's not a great polished speaker, which is to her benefit. You know, some of you will know what I mean when sometimes a person is too slick. You know, Gavin Newsom, he's smart. He comes off, in a very slick televangelist kind of way that I think normal people react badly to. And then you add to that he looks like American Psycho. I mean, he is a psycho. So there's that kind of presentation that doesn't always come off very well. And then there are the kind of people who, when they speak, it's clear that this costs them something. They are not typically giving big political speeches. They're not necessarily terribly comfortable in front of audiences. And something about that makes you cheer for them. And it also makes what they have to say something that resonates with you often just a little bit more because they come off as much more sincere. J.D. Vance's wife came off like this, and we'll come to her in just a moment. But anyway, I thought that Kai Trump's talk was great because she just told stories about her granddad. And they were sweet stories. And they're kind of stories that anybody who, had any kind of relationship with their grandfather, or perhaps is a grandfather or a grandchild, identifies with, because they're real stories. I love the fact that she says he will call her from time to time when she's at school, and she has to say, "Grandpa, I'm in school. I can't talk to you right now." But I thought that was great. I thought that looked fabulous. Eric Trump, who is not usually as front and center as Don Jr. is, certainly not in 2020. He's been more visible in 2024. I thought he did a great job, and it was because he was very passionate and he was a little misty-eyed. The assassination attempt on his father has greatly affected that whole family, and I thought he came across as very fiery, and even Donald Trump afterwards said, "Eric, what was that?" I thought that was very good. I enjoyed his presentation. Melania, I thought she reflected very well upon her husband. All of them could take a lesson from her. Gavin Newsom could take a lesson from her. Melania Trump, who was a model for much of her life, everything about her suggests she understands the camera, and the camera likes her. She knows where the cameras are. She has a Kate Middleton royal family kind of presence. She's stately. She's beautiful. She is restrained, but pleasant. And she has, the hand wave down. I thought that she reflects very well upon her husband. And, it's interesting. I saw this past week, maybe we can put it on the screen for you, but a funny tweet. I don't know that it was meant to be funny, but Don Lemon, the former CNN anchor, I think he was fired by CNN, but Don Lemon, who is gay, said that Michelle Obama is more attractive, is more beautiful than is Melania Trump. Now, this would normally be the kind of thing that I would comment on, but come on. Don Lemon likes men. He likes men. So it would stand to reason that he would choose Michelle Obama. I mean, Melania Trump is, if not certainly one of the most beautiful first ladies that we've ever had. And she reflects so well upon her husband. But I mean, come on, Don Lemon, not interested in your opinion on the attractiveness of these ladies, given the fact that you're a homosexual. A small regret is slouching in the dentist chair and thinking I should have brushed and flossed better. A big health regret is listening to your doctor and thinking I should have paid attention to nutrition when I was younger. Better health today and when it matters most is why I take Field of Greens. Field of Greens is unlike any fruit and vegetable or green product. Field of Greens isn't watered down extracts. Field of Greens is an organic superfood. It's whole fruits and vegetables. Each fruit and vegetable was selected by doctors to support vital body functions like heart, liver, kidneys, metabolism, and immune system. And only Field of Greens is backed by a better health promise. At your next checkup, your doctor will notice your improved health or your money back. Don't look back and say, I should have paid attention to nutrition when I was younger. Field of Greens is a key to better health today and when it matters most. Let's get you started with 15% off and free shipping. Visit fieldofgreens.com and use promo code IDEAS. That's promo code IDEAS at fieldofgreens.com. Trump's speech. I loved his speech. I know that there are those who have been very critical of it. Jason Whitlock, who I've had on this show and who I think very highly of. Jason Whitlock made some very good points regarding Trump's speech and why he didn't like it, and went so far as to say that he thought it was a very bad speech. Now, I don't agree with that, and there are others who would agree with him in that opinion. I disagree very strongly with that for reasons that I will make very clear. But I thought that that Trump's speech, he came off as very sincere. Again, I thought he came off, particularly in the first half of the speech. I think the speech was about an hour and a half, and I would say probably through the first 30, 45 minutes, Trump came off as reflective. He came off as subdued. He was very much on script. I have seen some chatter on social media that they were having problems with the teleprompter, which would explain why Trump, began to ad-lib, if that's the case. I don't know if that is the case or not, but I didn't mind it. I didn't mind him going off script. I didn't mind the things that he had to say that seems to have gotten some others, particularly on the left, upset. I don't care if the left is upset. They are not going to vote for him. They created an atmosphere to assassinate him. I mean, come on. We have, what do I care? It's like my coach giving a pep talk to my team. What do I care whether the other team is offended by that pep talk? What do I care if they liked it or not? I'm not interested in their opinions on what Trump has to say. But there are those, like Whitlock and some others, who have some strong opinions about his presentation. But I personally liked it very much. This was the first time that Trump had spoken publicly since the attempt upon his life. And for that reason, I give him a pass. I give him a pass for any foibles, for any missteps, for going too long, or if he had been too short or anything. If that had been a friend of mine when he came off stage, having just days before someone trying to blow his head off with a high-powered rifle, I think I would be giving him a hug or patting him on the back and saying, awesome job, awesome job. Not enough has been made out of the fact that, just think about this for a moment. Someone tried to kill you just days before. And in that attempt, they severely wounded and killed other people. This would traumatize you very deeply, but what do? You get up and you go to work? Is that what you do? You praise the people, in this case, the Secret Service, who failed to protect you as they ought to have. You show a sense of humor, and you show a posture of reconciliation, of peace, towards those people who created the atmosphere for this attempt on your life to take place to begin with. That's what Trump did. That's what Trump did. To me, that's the most amazing part of his speech, and it's being overlooked. He spoke peace. He complimented the Secret Service. He got up and he went to work. And he continued on as, I won't say quite as business as usual, because as I've said, as he's said, he's changed somewhat. But that's what he did. And he had a good sense of humor. I loved when he turned towards that graph and he said, well, there it is. This graph saved my life. It's what I was turning to look at when the shot came that went right through my ear. It's why the bullet did not go through my head, because I was turning to look at that graphic. I love that graphic. I thought that was wonderful. And I told Lori as he was talking, I sure hope that he says something about the wounded and about the man who was killed. I do, and he did. And boy, did he. And he was very gracious in what he has to say. So when people say that it was too long, that they were annoyed or they fell asleep or whatever, get a life. You have no understanding of what this man has been through. None of what he has been through, if that's your reaction. You know, Whitlock said, well, it's a rally speech that he gave. Yep, the second half was. But that's what the RNC is, to some extent. You are trying to galvanize your base. You're trying to fire up the troops. You are, as I say, giving a pep talk to your side. Now, yes, you are also trying to capture that undecided vote, but the polls are showing that he is. And I think people felt pretty positive about the RNC and the way, in particular, that it concluded. So I see all that in a very positive light. But I want to say this about Trump. I want to help you understand what you might not really perceive is going on with him, and where I think that I might have a little bit of insight here. Having suffered both physical and emotional trauma, severe trauma, it affects you. You can't control that. It's not something you can turn on and you can turn off. It affects you. And there is, for a time, in the aftermath of a seriously traumatic event, you're kind of in what I call sort of a netherworld, where it's not quite day and it's not quite night, and you sometimes feel like things are moving in slow motion and the sounds around you are muffled, and you're kind of sort of perceiving all that's happening around you. You're taking things in differently. You're thinking differently. You're feeling everything. It's like your senses, all of them, are heightened. You're emotionally vulnerable. And I want to stress the word vulnerable, probably in ways that you don't perceive, at least at the time. You might, in retrospect, people around you who know you and know you very well would probably perceive that. Donald Trump is very vulnerable right now. And I don't just mean in a physical way. I mean in a kind of endearing way. This has affected him. Someone was killed. I'm watching the left minimize this and act like it's no big deal, mocking the bandage on his ear. I can't stress enough, somebody tried to blow his head off. Whether the bullet hit him or not, it's a traumatizing thing. The recognition that you were on stage giving a talk, and over here is a guy on a rooftop getting a bead on you, and you just happen to turn your head when he shoots, and he kills other people. The people who attended that event, especially those who were near those who were injured or killed, they're traumatized. That's the way it affects you. As we go through life, the years bring us wisdom, experience, and memories we hold dear. Yet with age, our health often faces new challenges. It's a natural part of life, but it's crucial to address these changes with the right care and attention. For me, one of the ways to stay sharp is to supplement. I've been using Liver Health Formula, and I recommend you try it for yourself to see the results that it can bring. And right now, I think is the time to start taking care of your liver, because there is a silent epidemic affecting 100 million Americans. 1 in 3 Americans suffer from an overworked and sluggish liver. It affects our weight energy levels, clear thinking and productivity, and even sleep. Our livers get bombed every day with GMOs, microplastics, toxins, and all of the stuff that you might not even know about. Liver Health Formula can support your liver to minimize the impacts of all of this. It is a premium supplement designed with 11 clinically proven botanicals to support and detoxify your liver, helping you feel revitalized and ready to conquer each day. Just listen to Mr. Harrington's testimonial, who shared his transformative journey. At first, I was skeptical, but the health improvement has been nothing but amazing. The tired, foggy feeling I've had is gone. I have more energy for a longer duration. Also, the service and delivery is always prompt. Of course, results are not typical, thus you have to see for yourself. There's an exclusive deal for my audience. Head to getliverhelp.com/Larry. And as a special offer, you'll get a free 1-month supply of nano-powered omega-3s with your order. That's getliverhelp.com/Larry. I have mentioned, and unfortunately more than I want to in recent weeks, the accident that I suffered. I remember in a very, very powerful occasion, a couple of months after the event, meeting the witnesses to my accident, people who didn't know me and would not have recognized me because I was covered in blood, and I do mean covered in blood. So my facial features, which were severely damaged, were not recognizable, and you couldn't see my face because I was soaked in blood. So when I met them, and I'm cleaned up, but I'm hobbling and still very much recovering, they had a very strong emotional reaction, and some of them wept. And it dawned on me, I didn't have an emotional connection with them because I had no memory of the event, but they had an emotional connection with me because they did remember the event, and they remembered seeing me, and they all swore that they saw me die. You were dead. You were moaning like a wounded animal, and then it affected them deeply emotionally. Now imagine you're at an event like this, and the guy next to you gets shot in the head, or somebody next to you gets shot somewhere else, and you're seeing all this blood and the chaos, and it's everything that's happening. It does affect you. And in this case, Donald Trump, among others, I mean, the wife and daughters, plural, of the man who was killed, those are deeply, deeply traumatized people, as well as many others. Donald Trump, the realization that he nearly lost his life, that if he had not turned his head, that bullet would have passed right through his skull. That is traumatizing. That reality, to be confronted in that manner with your own mortality, affects you. It affects you. And I want to stress this. Sometimes the way it affects you is in a very positive way. I recall after receiving I think I was 21. I received, I was an undergraduate, and I received a diagnosis that I had cancer. I'd gone into the hospital with a very high fever they couldn't explain. 104, which is a very high fever for an adult, and lasted for several days, and then it disappeared. Then it happened again. And finally a surgeon said, let's go in and look around. And I remember my meeting with him where it's very funny in retrospect, but you know how they leave the files, the charts in the door? Well, he opens the door, pulls the file out. He hasn't read it yet. And he's like, hey, what's going on? And he flips to my chart, and he leans over and puts his arm on my shoulder. And I could tell, this is not good. He said, I don't know how to tell you this. You have cancer. You have cancer in your intestines. And some would criticize him and say, well, this is a terrible bedside manner. He should have read the chart before he came in. As he would say to me later, you are the picture of health to me. And you're 21. Somebody that age, this type of cancer, he says, so rare. 17 years of medicine, I've never seen it. I wasn't expecting that. I thought we'd come in and they'd say, yeah, well, you're fine. But after that diagnosis, I had a little period of time there where I was in that netherworld that I'm talking about. I might be on my way out, and I felt like I was just on my way into life. Here I am approaching, graduation from college. I have my whole future ahead of me, all the plans that I have for my life, and all of a sudden I get this. It affects you. I recall talking to Christopher Hitchens moments after his diagnosis with esophageal cancer, which is a death sentence. And he was breathing very heavily. He sounded like Darth Vader. And the reason that I called him was that I had just seen on, I don't know if it was on social media or the news, that he'd just been taken off of a plane due to some sort of health emergency. So I called him, and he says, I've just received the diagnosis from my physician that I have this type of cancer, and it is a death sentence. And I'll never forget his words. He said, I had plans for the next decade of my life. I think I should change them. It affected him. It changed him. All of this is by way of saying to you, how dare you criticize this man right after this event? And he goes into the RNC and gives a speech that people are sitting there like he's a diver, and they're holding up placards and going, oh, I give that a 6. I give it a 5. It was too long. It lacked form. There was a little splash when he hit the water. There are things I have been critical of Donald Trump about. There will still be others. As I just said, the platforming of a pro-choice, pro-abortion porn star, unrepentant pro-abortion porn star on Monday night is one of them. And I'm going to come back to that later when we start talking about the flow of ideas and ideologically speaking, where is the Republican Party going? Today is not the day for that. We will come back to that on another occasion. But have the class, have the decency, read the room and recognize what this man has just gone through. Don't fall for the stupid commentary on television and on podcasts and on social media that is downplaying this. They're told to downplay it. They're terrified of the image, a Pulitzer Prize deserving image of Donald Trump on stage, fist pumping, saying to the crowd, fight, 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 and the American flag behind him. That image is so powerful, and they're terrified of it, and they're terrified of his heroic response to the attempt on his life. And so they want to move on to other things. They want to talk about other things. They want to hold up the shiny object to get your attention over here, to divert it away from what's going on here. I have never looked forward to hearing a presidential nominee speak so much as I was looking forward to hearing Donald Trump speak on Thursday night. And that is because of the attempt on his life. That is because we had heard him say that he was changed. You could see it throughout the convention. I wanted to hear what he had to say. I wanted to see the degree to which he was changed. And frankly, I think we saw that. And for me, it was an amazing performance given what he has been through. Given what he has been through. Frankly, I would have been angry. I told my wife as I'm sitting there, I think I might have, it's hard to say because there's been no attempt upon my life, and I can't say for sure how I would have reacted to that, not in that kind of circumstance. But my inclination is to say that I would have wanted to come in to that speech, come onto the stage, and hit that audience with fire. I would have wanted to go after the Democrats and say, this is who they are. These are the people who created the atmosphere that led to the attempt on my life, the injury of other people, and the death of another man. They created this. They did this. They did it deliberately. And ladies and gentlemen, if they're telling you they're disappointed or they're upset or, wow, political violence isn't something we can tolerate, they're lying. Their only disappointment is that they didn't kill me. That's their only disappointment. If Donald Trump had come in and said that, he'd have been criticized for it, for sure, by other people. He would have been 100% justified in doing it. 100% justified in it. I'm still not sure that he shouldn't have done it. But to his credit, Donald Trump, who has the reputation of being the bull in the china shop, as being the loose cannon, was the guy who came in and was so restrained, was so gentle, who spoke of peace, who spoke of unity, who spoke of forgiveness, who complimented the Secret Service. Wow. Spoke of the sniper who took out the assassin. Trump was obviously very impressed with that. He said he was shooting from a much greater distance, and he said he shot one time. Hit the target. To me, that's amazing. But let's hear what the left has to say. Let's watch this discussion between Joy Reid and Jen Psaki. Now, we know who they are. You know what to expect here, or maybe you think you do, but let's listen to the classlessness of the American political left.
Question that I have on that. These two men are both elderly. Donald Trump is an elderly man who, for whatever reason, was given 9 seconds to take a iconic photo op during an active shooter situation. Weird situation. We'll figure that out one day. But his survival of that and bouncing right back and going right to his convention is being conveyed in the media world as a sign of strength. This current president of the United States is 81 years old and has COVID. Should he be fine in a couple of days? Doesn't that convey exactly the same thing? That he's strong enough, older than Trump, to have gotten something that used to really be fatal to people his age. So if he does fine out of it and comes back and is able to do rallies, isn't that exactly the same? I mean, it's not exactly the same. It's not the same incident, but it's an elderly man coming through out of an illness.
So Joe Biden, fighting COVID, is every bit as heroic as Donald Trump moving forward with his life, his response to an assassination attempt upon his life. To me, that's just such astonishing dishonesty or self-deception. These people, they lie so much. They speak falsehoods so easily that at this point, I mean, this is what you get. It's pretty amazing to me. I mean, had he landed at Normandy on D-Day, they would say, well, you know, Joe Biden fighting his way up the steps to Air Force One, I mean, is just as heroic as, you know, as climbing Point de Hoc at Normandy. This is the kind of stuff that they say, but they are the ones who created this atmosphere of hate. They're the ones who encourage this. As I said to you before the assassination attempt, I told you that this was coming. I told you that they have been hoping some left-wing crackpot was going to take a shot at Donald Trump. Now, I'm still not going to get into the details of the assassination attempt, and that is because there is so much information out there. Much of it is disinformation, deliberate disinformation. Some of it is also just designed to get clicks. It's just outrageous things that are being said by some big accounts to get you to click on it. And until we know a little bit more, I'm not going to go into the details of that. But the left has said Gosh, political violence. We can't tolerate political violence. They've been reluctant to use the term assassination. They just speak of political violence as though we're just talking about rioting or something like that. Not an attempt. They want to do anything they can to avoid Trump from appearing heroic. So they're trying to change the conversation and change the language that one uses in discussing this. But they've gone right back to where they were before. They've gone right where they were before. Look at this headline, this dishonest headline from David Frum at The Atlantic. He speaks of the assassin and the dictator. Now, I've had my interactions with David Frum. He is one of the editors at The Atlantic. I've written for The Atlantic. I did an interview with him some years ago at his request. David Frum is a liar. He is a deeply dishonest man. He is a liar. And he is a man who, he's a former Bush speechwriter, presumably somewhat conservative. There's not a conservative bone in this Canadian's body. He will sell himself. He is a political whore. He will sell himself to the highest bidder, and he has gone to the left, where I think is his natural home and where he was. But this is a guy who, in earlier portrayals of Trump, portrayed him as Adolf Hitler. This is what the left has done. They have consistently portrayed Donald Trump as Adolf Hitler. Here's a headline from the Washington Post. Yes, it is okay to compare Trump to Hitler. Don't let me stop you. So there we have that. And then we have this. We have the New Republic. This is a fairly recent cover where they have Trump making him look like Hitler, and they say American fascism. Now, as we've discussed on Ideas Have Consequences, they don't really have an understanding of what fascism actually is, of what Marxism actually is. Or if they do, they're lying about it. But these are the people who are actual fascists. Now, just by way of a brief explanation, Nazis are all fascists, but not all fascists are Nazis. So Nazism is, by definition, fascism. But Nazism is also anti-Semitic, and not all fascists are anti-Semitic. So throughout most of the history of this show, I've referred to the left. I've said that they are fascists, and that is because that's what ESG is. That's what DEI is in Marxism. There's no there's no private property. In fascism, there is, but it's highly regimented and controlled by the state for the state's purposes. That's ESG. And usually the purpose is for the purpose of war. And in this case, the government, a fascist Biden regime, uses industry, uses corporate America via DEI and via ESG for the purpose of warfare, not Ukraine, but against a domestic population. That's what they're doing. So I have said that they are fascists, not Nazis. I've been at pains to say, nope, they're not Nazis, they're fascists. Now I'm getting to a place where I'm prepared to say, no, I think they are Nazis. And it's because we're seeing the anti-Semitic strain now coming out in a very big way. We've seen it since October 7. We have seen it coming out through various members of the Democrat Party and through various policies. This is, by the way, Obama. This is Obama. He is an anti-Semite. He hates Israel. He is an anti-Semite, and he's got a strong fascist strain in him, for sure. But those are the people who are accusing you and me and anybody on the right. I mean, if you vote for Trump, you're a fascist. That's their narrative, or a Nazi. They actually portray you as, as a follower of Adolf Hitler. This is very dishonest. Now, moving on from that, going back to Trump's speech, I want to say this. I love Trump's humor. Think about it. been an attempt on his life, and yet he had a sense of humor. I loved when he said, he was talking about Franklin Graham, who had just spoken, and he was paying a compliment to Franklin Graham's famous father, Billy Graham, the great evangelist, arguably the greatest evangelist of the 20th century, some would say of all time. And he said, you know, my father, this is Trump speaking, my father used to take me to Billy Graham rallies at Yankee Stadium. And then he said, Billy was a pretty good rally guy too, meaning he attracted huge audiences to the Billy Graham crusades. Those rallies attracted tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people. And here's Trump saying, you know, like me, Billy did this. You know, he was a pretty good rally guy. I thought that showed a real sense of humor, but also Trump revealed some rebar running through his backbone that we've always seen in him. He has no illusions about Democrats. He said flat out, they will cheat. And he says the only way we can overcome it is by overwhelming the polling stations with votes. We absolutely have to get out in numbers and vote. I thought that was very honest. We all know that it's true. The left knows that it's true. They know that is true as well. And again, the left fears Trump. Listen to this just a brief excerpt from an interview with Mark Zuckerberg. Listen to what he had to say here. It's quite interesting.
I mean, on a personal note, it's, seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life.
That's interesting. And that's because I think that's an honest reaction from Zuckerberg. I don't think that's a planned statement. I think he's just giving an honest gut reaction to a question. Me seeing Donald Trump get up on stage after someone shot him in the face and he fist pumps, says Zuckerberg's one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my whole life. That's the reaction of the whole world in seeing it. And it's why the left doesn't want you to see it. It's why they want to change the conversation. This is the way people, left, right, and center, are reacting to that. And the left hates it. They hate it because it is such a powerful symbol to rally around. And if you heard Joy Reid earlier, she was actually floating a conspiracy theory of her own. Did you hear? She said somehow Trump had 9 seconds to pose. In her mind, this was all planned, that Trump would get, or she's lying and she's just trying to convince you of it, that Trump gets up and he's posing in front of the flag to get that shot and then move on. That was all planned. They are afraid of that image, and they're afraid in general. I also want to say this, that Usha, Vance, again, I thought she did a great job. She's very bright. My eldest son, I don't think he'll mind me saying this, he went to law school. He went to Yale Law with both of the Vances. He didn't know them personally, but he had a favorable impression of them both. He was a year 1 law student. They were year 3. They're ahead of him. They're older than him. But he had a very positive impression of them, and that she is very, very bright. She's exceptionally bright, and she is someone who will have a real influence on J.D. Vance. Now, it remains to be seen where she stands exactly, ideologically speaking. If you go to Yale Law, there's only a very tiny number of people who come out of Yale Law that are conservative. Yale Law isn't just leftist. It's not just hard left. It is radical left. And so it remains to be seen where she sits. But I thought she was fabulous. I thought she came off as a wife and mom. I thought she came off as a very normal person. And she came off, as I said earlier, of Kai as a person who doesn't typically give political speeches. And thus there was a degree of nervousness and authenticity. That's the word I've been looking for. Authenticity with all of the speakers, with Kai, with Eric, with Usha, and with Donald Trump. There was authenticity that shone through all of them. And that's what was so powerful about Thursday night. And J.D. Vance's talk, on Wednesday night was great, wasn't it? Stories of his grandmother with all the guns hidden around the house and saying that if he didn't stop associating with his drug dealer, she was going to run over that guy with her car and no one would ever find out. These are funny stories. And they ring with authenticity. And J.D. Vance is a guy who comes off as a man who is from not just red state America, but he's from a very common town and roots. And he's proud of those roots and he remembers where he comes from. If Donald Trump didn't come from that, and of course we all know that he didn't, what Donald Trump brought to the table in 2016 was that he was a political outsider. He was kind of Ross Perot in a sense. That he was a billionaire, but he wasn't a political insider, and therefore he wasn't yet corrupted, tainted by the Beltway and all that takes place within it. And he was bringing in fresh set of ideas. In this case, what Vance is bringing is though he is a politician, he hasn't been one for long. Very brief period of time. He hasn't yet been corrupted, it does not seem, by the political system, and he's very aware of where he's come from. And unlike Trump, he comes from the opposite end of the political spectrum. Not the political spectrum, the social spectrum. He is, he's come up from trailer parks, as it were. And he's had a very successful life. Add to that he's a veteran. So this is a guy that brings a measure of sensibility, and it is my hope that Trump will set him up for a 2028 run, and that J.D. Vance and those people who know him and know him well tell me he is an authentic conservative, that J.D. Vance will reinvigorate the Republican Party with a strong, authentic conservative backbone. It needs it. Right now it's a little bit adrift, and we'll discuss that on a later episode. But I thought this was all a wonderful close to the RNC. If I could give any advice to the RNC, they haven't called me, they haven't consulted me, but I do believe they have a golden opportunity, and they had one here that they missed. I'm not saying that the convention wasn't successful. It was highly successful. But I think that there's a tremendous opportunity here for the Republicans to say, we are the pro-child, pro-human party. We love children. Bring your children here. We love families. Bring them here. Come join us. We're pro-human. We want to make life better for human beings, not for the planet. We want to spend money for Americans, for taxpayers here in this country. We don't want to make life better for you. We want to lower your taxes. We want to improve your schools and your communities and your infrastructure. We want to encourage human flourishing at every level. We love kids. We're the pro-life party. Democrats have become the anti-human party. Their policies, they're all anti-human. They hate human beings. And I believe that the opportunity to draw a sharp line of distinction between who we are and who they are is just a golden chance to demonstrate we stand for something that's wonderful and good and will have a demonstrable, positive influence on your life and on the life of your family and on your community and on your state and on your country. We want you to be proud of your country. We want you to be proud of us because we want to serve you. We want to be accountable to you. We are your public servants. That messaging would resonate with every American in this country who hasn't been deprived of their sense yet. And unfortunately, a sizable percentage have lost any sense. I mean, we saw that very funny graphic. I mean, it's funny and sad at the same time, but that I put up after the debate, the Trump-Biden debate, where it said that 33% of Americans polled said that Biden won that debate. I mean, those people are as feeble-minded as Biden is. But you see, that's what happens. I think I want to do an episode. I've been thinking about this, doing an episode about how to argue with people, how to debate with people, how to persuade people. I've had a lot of experience with that, and you learn a lot of things with that experience. And one of the things you learn, and it took me way longer than it should have to learn this, is that there are some people whose minds you can't change. There's an old saying that goes like this: a man can get convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. I mean, it's, as you've heard me say before, about the only thing you can convince people of is that they're victims, because that's Marxism's, that's the Democrat Party's cynical understanding of human nature. They get that. They don't understand human nature very well, because if they did, they would know that socialism, Marxism, communism cannot work. But they do understand it enough to know that it's easy to whisper into people's ear, Iago-like, and convince people. If you've read Othello, Iago, he's a character, a very cynical character, who's like Lord Henry, who I mentioned on the last episode, I think it was, who's the character in The Picture of Dorian Gray. But they're both characters who are like the little devil that, sits on the shoulder and urges others on to evil or to believe things that simply aren't true. And that's what Democrats do. And the way they do it is to convince you you're a victim. I'm not trying to diminish authentic victimhood. There is authentic victimhood, but it's not generally what we see these days. Real victims don't want to talk about their victimhood. They want to move on. And it's not found in white supremacy or in Black Lives Matter and on all these kinds of things. Trying to convince people of things is a very, very difficult thing to do. But I do think that it is possible in this climate, because more and more people are seeing and are waking up to the anti-human rhetoric and policy of the American left, and that in the past 4 years, they have, with malice aforethought, sought to demolish the economy, freedom in this country, and to bring ruin upon us all, with the exception of a very select oligarchy. I think more and more people are seeing the anti-human nature of who these people are. They're seeing the evil. And I think a message, a pro-human, pro-child message, pro-family message, will resonate with lots of people. I hope somebody out there is listening who has some sway and some influence and some good can come from that. Joe Biden. Let's talk a little bit about Joe Biden. What will happen? Well, we're recording this episode on Saturday, July 20. So please do bear in mind that if what I say now may have changed by the time this episode airs on Tuesday morning. We are hearing, on the one hand, people saying that Joe Biden has agreed to step down and he will do it as early as Sunday, tomorrow. Then there are others who are saying he's waiting until Benjamin Netanyahu visits on Wednesday, and then he's going to step down after that visit. And then there are still others who are saying, oh, no. He is not leaving the race. He is not getting out. The DNC chair has said he's our guy. You have some congressmen and members of the Senate who are saying that he's our guy. But you have a growing chorus of congressmen, senators who are saying, nope, he needs to step down. And you have big donors who are saying he has to step down. Now, again, by the time this episode airs, I may already be wrong. So I'm just speculating here. Do understand, like everybody else, I'm just reading tea leaves. I am guessing. I am making no absolute statements here. But I believe, I'm going to stick with my earlier statement to you in previous episodes, that I believe they will force Joe Biden out. I just don't see how they have an option. As it stands right now, because they're in absolute panic. And so as it stands right now, they have just a few options. One is that they get Joe out. And I know people will say, well, he has to make the decision. No, he doesn't. They could exercise the 25th Amendment. There's time. They don't want to do that because that would be bloody and very negative for the party. But they could. What I think is more likely is that they put great pressure on him behind closed doors. They offer him door one, which is, Joe, we build statues to you. You ride off into the sunset. We thank you for the good job that you've done. We secure your legacy as one of the greatest presidents ever. And we'll see to it that you are financially taken care of and your descendants for as far as you can see. But if he doesn't take that, if Jill doesn't take that, then I think they'll go to door number two, which is you're going to lose the entire support of the party. And since we know we're going to lose if we go with you, we're going to sabotage you. We're going to sink you. And who knows what's going to happen to you? There might be investigations into your corruption. You're corrupt, Joe. We know you're corrupt. And we know where the bodies are buried. We could let that happen. What about Hunter? Still has some court cases, doesn't he? I think that they could exert a lot of negative pressure on Joe Biden. I also think that money is drying up for them from donors. And they could just make it pretty clear to him, you will be running on your own. We're not supporting you. If we're going to lose anyway, and you insist on doing this, we're going to see to it that you crash and burn. I think that's a really, very real possibility. Or, as I say, they could Epstein him. They could accidentally leave a sloped roof undefended. They say Joe Biden has tested positive for COVID. I think he's tested positive for having outlived his usefulness to his Democrat handlers. So I believe they will get him out. One way or another, I think they will get him out. And until he's out, I think there's good reason for those people who know he's going to go out to still say that he's not going out, because they want to try to keep, the chatter and the negativity down. So that's one option. Get him out. Or not get him out and then cheat as never before. I mean, they did it once before, but this time it would have to be on a scale that's even more obvious. That's a possibility. Do not underestimate their ability to cheat. They do cheat. Trump told you this at the RNC, and he's told you this before. They do, and they will. Don't underestimate their capacity for doing it. And they will do it with riots. They will do it with mail-in ballots. They will do it with illegals voting. They will do it any way, shape, or form they can. They are that desperate. So that's another possibility. Still, yet another is that they decide, you know what, let's not waste our ammo here. The Trump train has too much momentum behind it. That image is too iconic. We are losing in every swing state. Let's keep the powder dry. save the money in the war chest, not waste a good candidate here, and just regroup and prepare for 2028 because Trump is a lame duck the moment he becomes president anyway because he can't run again. So let's begin prepping for 2028, weaponize the institutions of government against Trump to make sure he cannot get a single thing done. And let's start preparing our rhetoric for chipping away at J.D. Vance and his public image. Let's chip away at his public image so that by the time 2028 comes around, he's a lame duck too because we have turned him into a figure that is hated even more than Trump. I think these are very real possibilities. Very real possibilities. Or this. They galvanize the base, the Democrat base. And that brings me back to my prediction. The only candidate that can galvanize the Democrat base at this point is not Joe Biden. It is not Gretchen Whitmer. It is not Gavin Newsom. It's not Hillary Clinton. It's Michelle Obama. And I know a lot of people are saying that she says she will not run. I keep seeing she is loving life. She is living the life of celebrity and all that goes with it. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. I am not telling you beyond the shadow of a doubt that she will run. I am telling you that that's not a reason to believe that she will not run. There's no reason to state that you are running until you are beginning your campaign. So they will lie right up into the very moment that she's announced. And they all know that their only hope would be Michelle Obama. They all know that. And they all know that even if she did love her Hollywood life, she could easily run, galvanize the base. And by the way, some of you think she's not popular. No, she's not popular with you. She's not popular with me. She's not popular with any sensible person. But she's enormously popular on the left. And she would carry the black vote, the black female vote, which is the core of the Democrat Party. And she would carry the female vote across the country, and she would galvanize the Democrat Party as a whole. They would have a similar kind of enthusiasm going on the Democrat side that you're seeing on the Republican side. That's what would happen. Now, I'd hope she doesn't run, but I think this is a very, very likely scenario. If not, then maybe they just decide we'll just throw in the towel now. But do bear in mind, again, that Democrats are that desperate. To me, the scenario that we're seeing right now is similar to the end of World War II. It's those, you're looking at a map and you're seeing the Allied armies beginning to surround Berlin from the east and the west, and those images of a panicked Wehrmacht of Nazi administration, of camp guards, of people who are burning files, burning offices, burning their uniforms, getting into civilian clothes and trying to blend in with the public because they were terrified that their crimes would be known. Burn everything, they were told. Burn it all. Don't let them find it. That's what we're seeing. It's that level of panic from Democrats right now because this isn't like previous elections. Democrats have pushed everything to the center of the table and spun the wheel on this election. Their globalist agenda is at stake. Their sordid sexual agenda is at stake. Their war in Ukraine is at stake. Their money laundering, massive money laundering in Ukraine is at stake. And by the way, when I say the globalist agenda, I don't mean just the globalist agenda in the United States. I mean the whole globalist the whole globalist agenda. It all hinges on the United States. And they've been counting on and expecting that the United States will continue to be the primary funder and player in pushing forward a WEF, World Economic Forum type agenda. And the threat of Donald Trump has sent shockwaves, panic throughout the globalist world, not just in the United States. But what it's also done is that populists, just common people, not just in the United States, but around the world, are rooting for Trump. Because the implications of this election for them are huge, too, you see. So Democrats have all these things that I've mentioned on the line, but the biggest thing they have on the line is the discovery, the exposure of all their corruption. They risk losing both houses. Imagine that. If Trump is elected and also has the House and the Senate, that would be an astonishing wipeout for Democrats. Intolerable. And that is why I keep telling you, expect anything. You must be prepared for anything. Another attempt on Trump's life is very possible, if not probable. And in that case, likely more successful. I hope, pray that I'm wrong in that. But that's the level of desperation we're talking about here. The rhetoric that Democrats are using in the aftermath of this is unchanged. They are still calling him a threat to democracy, a threat to civilization. They're still calling him a Nazi and a fascist. They're still an existential threat. They're still saying all of that. They're still trying to create an atmosphere of hysteria where someone will kill him, shoot him, blow him up. That's what they're doing. So to that end, to prevent that from happening, and by the way, I think that those attempts on his life would cease if in fact he takes office as president of the United States. And that is because I think they will fear J.D. Vance more. Trump, as I've indicated, isn't a true conservative. And those of you who might think that he is, you are wrong. Again, if you are, you don't platform the pro-abortion porn star. And Eric Trump said in an interview during the RNC that his dad was never really a pro-lifer to begin with. Trump is a businessman, a good businessman, and he understands that making a deal is important. It's important to keep it. And he made a deal. He gave his word to evangelicals, the core of the party, in 2016. And he said, you elect me, I will be your man. And I will appoint conservative judges, pro-life judges. And he did. But that was never who he really is. It is who J.D. Vance is. Trump is anti-woke, not conservative. There's a difference. J.D. Vance is anti-woke, but also conservative. And he's an intellectual. They will fear him more because, meaning it doesn't help your situation from a Democrat point of view if you assassinate Trump and he's followed by J.D. Vance. That's worse. If he's followed by Mike Pence, that's a much rosier outcome from a Democrat point of view, but not if it's J.D. Vance who follows him. So I think that if indeed Trump takes office, I think the likelihood of assassination drops significantly because of who's waiting in the wings. But that said, between now and November, you need to understand that Democrats, because they are panicked, they are willing to do anything. Another pandemic, more lockdowns, more mail-in ballots, more open borders, more riots, more war, more anything to prevent Donald Trump from taking office. You need to be ready for that. But all of this, ladies and gentlemen, is good news because it means they are losing. This has been Ideas Have Consequences with me, Larry, Alex Taunton.